the Chauta dynasty to which Abakka belonged, till about a couple of decades ago, even they didn't know that there was someone called Abakka in their family. It was some kind of a scroll or something that they discovered. When I met the descendants, they told me that probably 50 years, 60 years ago, they didn't know. They had some vague idea that there was some heroic lady, but the details were unknown even to the family. Invoke not only a deity, but also ancestor worship, ancestors, and also kings and queens and all of that. And so while mainstream historiography may have been unfair to all these people, nobody can take away the lived experience of a folk performance. Kathayuktam puravrittam itihasat cha chakshmate dharmartha kama mokshanam upadesha samanvitam. So, the narratives of the past, the puravrittam, told in a kathayuktam, in a format of a story.
When I came to the Rani Abbakka pit, I went back and forth. So when I came to Rani Abbakka, what I did not know for certain is that there wasn't one Rani Abbakka.
There were 4.
Yeah, there were 4 of them, and each one was different and, had different contributions to make. And this came as a surprise. So maybe people who studied from Karnataka board knew about it. But there's certainly no mention about her, nothing that we read about. Maybe Amar Chitra Katha or something like that as students you could get. But if you did not have access to a British Council library, or if you didn't have access, you did not know about many of the people that you mentioned, and certainly not about Rani Abakka.
Yeah.
So, and also there were I'm going to read out again, as I said, I've got these points which I've got marked out, which I find so fascinating. And I'm going to read out in this. About Abakka as the warrior princess. This fierce battle between the Portuguese and Abakka took place in 1555 CE, and when the former sent Admiral Dom Alvaro de Silveira against the Queen with 21 battleships. Several innocent people in Ullal were tortured and murdered by the invading fleet. Attempts were made to desecrate the Somnatha temple in Ullal, which was bravely resisted by the Nayakas of Abakka, who died fighting for this cause. And then you talk about launching a surprise attack on them. We're still talking about the Portuguese. Abakka managed to kill General Pixoto. I'm presuming that's the pronunciation.
Yeah.
And 70 of his soldiers. The invaders fled to their ships, being thoroughly disgraced. Abakka followed in hot pursuit and killed the admiral of the fleet, Mascarenhas, along with the help of her 6,000 soldiers. And the foreign army was forced to vacate Mangalore fort. What a brave lady.
Yeah, and her successor does something more heroic.
Yeah.
In all these coconut chippu, you put the ammunition, and that's hurled in the middle of the night.
The RPG of then.
Yes.
The rocket. Okay. These were the grenades of then.
Grenades, and the entire Portuguese fleet was burnt away that way. And those stories traveled across the world apparently to the court of a Persian emperor who talks about this incident of a small little principality in India whose queen and her army destroyed the mighty Portuguese fleet. And so one of the Pietro della Valle, who's an Italian traveler, he comes to India particularly then to see who is this lady, about whom the emperor of Persia is talking about. And so a lot of the chapter on Abakka is also first-person account of della Valle and what he saw about her, how he, of course, thought that she was not at all pretty. She was dark and obese and not the idea of the queen that he had in her.
It was so cruel what he said. And then he
calibrated
after. That's very nicely depicted in that. I mean, he uses such crude words about her that she was dark and she was short
corpulent.
And she was corpulent and she was not wearing an upper garment.
Yes.
But he did say that when she started talking, he was fascinated with that she was of nobility.
And she had such maternal concern for a stranger and a foreigner. She asked somebody, who is this guy? He looks different and strange, and then a translator helps them connect, and he says, I've traveled all over the world, and she very lovingly asks him, have you suffered heartbreaks, which is why you're going, to soothe your
And
heart.
he had thought that she can't talk because she doesn't have teeth.
Yes.
Right? I found
And that she was into black magic and killing her own kids, all kinds of tales. That's again another thing against women rulers. Even
across the world,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
It's a global thing that they've had, that they were witches. And if they were not burnt at the stake,
Yeah.
that's another thing I want to say. We keep talking about sati as an Indian phenomenon. Women were burnt at the stake, burnt in the Western world too.
Yeah.
So it's not just an Indian phenomenon. Anyway, I digress. Go on. But I was talking with Sushil, who's my producer, who's also from Karnataka, and we're saying that I read about Ullal, yes, but what is my memory of Ullal, or what is my thing of Ullal is like not a single place where it says, okay, battlefield. This is where only thing I know about. I read about Bangadi only in your thing, Banga. The kingdom of. I didn't even know there was a kingdom of Banga, and all I've done is take a state transport bus, probably from there to here. But to think that there were these famous battles that were fought there, historic battles, people who live there don't know, Vikram.
Correct. True. Which is the saddest part. And in fact, I believe even the Chauta dynasty to which Abbakka belonged, till about a couple of decades ago, even they didn't know that there was someone called Abbakka in their family. It was some kind of a scroll or something that they discovered. When I met the descendants, they told me that probably 50 years, 60 years ago, they didn't know. They had some vague idea that there was some heroic lady, but the details were unknown even to the family. So that is how undocumented it just disappeared into something. And of course, the memory was kept alive thanks to the folk rituals, the Bhutaradhane and Yakshagana. But the historical details were revealed much later through some scroll which they got. And then slowly a lot of scholars started putting together, Dr. Vasanta Madhava and so many others in coastal Karnataka. They started piecing together information about these ladies who are called Abbakka Deviyaru. In plural, in that part. So it was never...
So the Yakshagana the recitals that I have been to, so as a child, when I heard about Rani Abakka and I saw this is my earliest memories of a Yakshagana recital of Rani Abakka was mentioned in one of that. But I was told that this is legend, not historical fact.
Yeah.
So somewhere in all these, people that you mention, somewhere this legend, myth, mythology, history, all this is all blending.
Yeah.
So how do you figure out? It's only...
That's how our history has always been written. And I think that's been the Indian way of historiography.
Kantara? What about that?
Well, that too. I mean, in the same context where, you invoke not only a deity, but also your ancestor worship, ancestors, and also kings and queens and all of that. And so while mainstream historiography may have been unfair to all these people, nobody can take away the lived experience of a folk performance, where, as you also remember, that there is someone like this. Maybe your textbook did not talk about her, which is so sad, but she lives on in memory. I think now the time has come to also bring them into the scholarly domain and also document facts about them from whatever little fragments of story are left behind of all these people. I think that, in the prologue I talk about this shloka that is there about what history is in the Indian imagination, where it said that Kathayuktam puravrittam itihasat cha chakshmate dharmartha kama mokshanam upadesha samanvitam. So, the narratives of the past, the puravrittam, told in a kathayuktam, in a format of a story. And for what purpose? One is to achieve the 4 pillars of purushartha, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and also upadesha samanvitam. It has to have a didactic value to it. There has to be moral value for society. That which does all of this, itihasam ta chakshmate. It is called as itihasa, which it's also broken down in Sanskrit is itihasa. It thus happened. So I think it was in the within that entire cocoon of the story, I think the kernel of the truth was somewhere embedded, and it was up to the seeker to actually get that out. So the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and the Ramayana, which are traditionally called the Itihasa, have such fantastic mythological tales. Kalhana's Rajatarangini too. I mean, it has all kinds of fanciful tales and gods and goddesses and yakshas and this and that, and all these stories are there. But in that somewhere is also embedded the historical truth, and I think that's how our ancestors saw preservation of knowledge of all forms, not only history. I mean, even mathematics and so on. Everything was written in a kavya format. The role of the Kavi, the Mahakavyas that were written. So they say the Sulba Sutras have the Pythagoras theorem was inspired by the Sulba Sutras. But if you go to the Sulba Sutras and see, it's not a formula like the West A square equal to B square plus C square. It will be in some Kavya form.
Square on the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the other two sides. Give the longer form of that.
But there in a poem somewhere would be embedded this truth of that mathematical equation. So in everything we had a very different. It was not knowledge had to be sought. It's not so easily spoon fed to you. So similarly, history too was written in kavya form. It had to have this katha yuktam. It had to have some upadesha to society. And that is how we wrote our history.
That's how you have written this also. It's very kavya form. If somebody was to ask me what is linking these guys that you have picked the 15 of them, I can't actually put a tangible thing that, this is what is linking them. But then, like you said, that there is a moral to the story. there is something linking them. What is that magical thing that links them? Do you know of anything, or did you pick them because there was some linking?
I think it just fell in place by itself. It was really quite, the way all of these just assembled themselves. After an initial planning, and later on I say, hey, I think there is a mosaic that just got created, without my active, conscious effort into doing this. Of course, as I said, a lot of other people got missed out. But I think
so. There's an episode 2 which is coming out.
Everyone's been behind my back. I mean, the
after the Tipu book, I guess. After that, okay. So Vikram, tell me about Sharda Peeth. It's something,
Kashmir one.
Yes, that just about the Sharda Peeth. It's so close to my heart. I mean, there is a linkage, so that's why I want to just ask you.
Well, I mean, when I was doing this research on the Lalitaditya chapter, I saw that, again, the Indic imagination of what a great empire is. It's, of course, all the opulence, the magnificence of palaces and temples and all of that. But alongside, each empire, I think, contested with another to be a center of learning and knowledge. So even Lalitaditya, when he goes and conquers Yashovarman and all these people, he brings scholars from that part to his court. If the idol from the, normally they say idols were destroyed even by Hindu rulers, which is not true. You would take away the idol of your opponent, bring it back to your kingdom and build a much more magnificent temple for the same idol. So you're not demolishing the idol like the iconoclastic waves of Islamic conquest did. Whatever is precious to your opponent, be it intellectuals, be it deities, you're bringing it back and giving it a better importance in your domain, and that's how you have conquered your opponent. So I think Lalitaditya, the kind of people, Vakpati, Atri Gupta and all these Bhavabhuti, the poet, all these people who come to the Kashmir court, Charvak, Sushruta, the Ayurveda, this one, and Atri Gupta is the grandfather of Abhinav Gupta, who begins this entire Kashmir Shaivism school, Vignan Bhairav Tantra, Kashmir Shaivism, Tantric, this one, Vajrayana Buddhism, and how that influenced even the Tibetan school of Buddhism, all originating from Kashmir. Astronomy, astrology, it was veritably the center of knowledge and learning, and that's why I think around the same time when Adi Shankaracharya goes there, and by then he has established the mutts at the four cardinal points of India, south, west, north, and east, and then goes up to Kashmir and establishes what is the Sarvagnya Peeth, the all-knowing Peetha, and dedicated to Sharda, who is the goddess of learning, and the script there is also Sharda script of Kashmir. So the pinnacle of knowledge, of civilization, of culture, along with material opulence, empires, expansion, going to all these different parts, the importance of
seat
Kashmir,
of knowledge.
yeah, which
Kashmir
has been destroyed for that very reason. That I think had the quintessence of the Indian civilization to a large extent, which had to be destroyed if you have to break the back of us as a people.